Hailey Reese, and for today's video I am so incredibly and ridiculously excited to bring you guys this case. I had never heard of this case prior to doing my research into it, and every single person in my life, including my mom, my stepdad, everybody, are all shocked when I share the details of this specific case. So I hope you guys are ready. This case is a crazy one, and I'm just like over the moon to share it with you. Something that you guys might not know about me, I think a few of you do, but not all of you, is that when my mom first got pregnant with me, I was actually a twin. However, unfortunately, as they continued to go for their ultrasounds, it appeared that my twin did not continue to develop, and in turn, I never had a twin beyond the first early stages of my mom's pregnancy. But the concept of twins and the connection that twins share with one another has always fascinated me, and I've always enjoyed looking into different twin telepathy experiences and just twin psychic abilities and twins in general. So this video is actually going to be the start of a new series here on my channel where we're going to explore certain cases surrounding twins in particular and just talk about them because I just find it so incredibly fascinating. So for centuries, the idea of nature versus nurture has been highly debated, but alongside that, the idea of twin telepathy has also been highly debated. So for today's video, I'm going to share with you the shocking case of the Jim twins from Ohio. So without further ado, let's get into it, and then we'll talk about those two theories that I just mentioned closer to the end of the video once we hear all about these twins. Okay, let's go. So in 1940, at only 3 weeks old, identical twin boys were adopted out separately, which, by the way, is incredibly, incredibly rare. There's a lot of different scientific reasons behind it. There's a lot of different personal reasons behind it, but more typically than not, twins aren't separated, especially in an adoption. And to make this case even more rare, the twins were adopted out by non-family members. So they were adopted separately by non-family members. One of the boys was adopted by the Lewis family, and the other boy was adopted by the Springer family. The Lewis family actually found out when their adoptive son was 1 year and 4 months old that he had actually had a twin brother. But the Springer family actually found out when they went to go and adopt another child and their adoptive twin was 6 years old that he had actually had a twin brother. However, the Springer family was told that his twin brother had actually died at birth. So they went on and were led to believe that he actually didn't have a living, breathing twin brother out there in the world. In 1977, when the twin boys, now men, were 37 years old, Jim Lewis decided that he really wanted to track down his twin brother. He brought his adoption papers to a courthouse where they basically explained to him that if they could track down his twin brother, they would send him a letter outlining that his twin brother wanted to meet him and give him the contact information to reach Jim Lewis. So a few weeks later, he received a phone call from his twin brother. The two decided to meet up. And to their surprise, you guys, they had lived separate but shockingly identical lives. Shockingly enough, you guys, despite their adoptive parents' lack of knowledge of the other twin in the early stages of adoption, both families, both the Lewis and the Springer family, named their sons James. So like I just said, both boys were adopted out separately. They had initially no idea, or the adoptive family had initially no idea that they had a twin brother, but yet they both named their sons James. Both men would come to be named Jim for short. The two would actually grow up only 40 miles apart from each other, and as crazy as it is that they were both named the same thing and they were adopted out to similar areas, this was only the beginning of their shockingly resemblant lives. Both Jims named both of their childhood dogs Toy, which if you guys really think about it, when you look at dog names, or common dog names more rather, dog names like Buddy or Rover or things like that are more common amongst when you're naming your dogs. Toy isn't a very common dog name, especially when you look at the fact that they're both named the same thing and they've now named their childhood dogs toy. While in school, they actually both had a love, passion, and gift for math and woodworking, and neither one of them was very good at spelling. They also both would go on to have brothers named Larry, which I found to be incredibly interesting. But here's where it gets chilling, where it becomes no longer similarities and actually identical lives. Both Jims had married twice, you guys, but what's shocking is the very first time that they were both married, both Jims married a woman named Linda. When this didn't work out and they divorced their Lindas, they both went on to marry a woman named Betty. So both of their first marriages had the exact same names. The men also said that their wives could have passed for sisters. They had a shocking resemblance to one another as well. Now here's where it gets even crazier, if you guys could even imagine crazier. Both Jim Lewis and Jim Springer had a firstborn son. And I kid you guys not, they both named their son James Allen. They named their firstborn sons the exact same name. Which, if you really think about it, it's not that strange for a male to name their firstborn son after them. So James wouldn't be all that strange, but the fact that they both named their firstborn sons James Allen, with the exception that one brother spelled it A-L-A-N and the other brother spelled it A-L-L-A-N, it's still incredibly shocking. Both Jims drove the exact same Chevrolet car. Both Jims were heavy smokers. They both had jobs in security. Jim Lewis was a security guard while Jim Springer was a deputy sheriff. So they both worked in security. They even took identical vacations to Florida, visiting the exact same beach for their family vacation, which Florida's a big space. There's multiple beaches you could go to. There's multiple places you could vacation to, but no, both Jims vacationed to the exact same beach for their family vacation. They both suffered migraines. They both lived on the only house on their block, and they loved the exact same light beer, and their drink of choice as far as soda went was both Pepsi. So everything in their lives, down to the names, details, and preferences, was the exact same, although they had been raised completely separately. So in 1979, researchers at the University of Minnesota actually went ahead to conduct a study on 137 pairs of twins over the next 20 years. The Jim twins were actually one of the pairs that they would conduct these specific studies on. I mean, as you guys could really imagine, the Jim twins were perfect candidates for behavioral studies, seen as, even though they'd never met one another and were raised by entirely different families, their lives had correlated in ways that one could only dream up. Like, it was just so uncanny. The two actually participated in a specific study of reunited twins that was conducted by Dr. Thomas Bouchard in the University of Minnesota as well. In one test that the twins took separately in measuring the personalities of each, their scores were so shockingly similar that it looked as though the exact same person had taken this test. Their brain wave tests were so similar, they were nearly identical. And when they dug into the medical history of the twins, it was identical as well, even though they'd grown up in different environments. Two fascinating stories of the week stay that they had had at this university while conducting tests was the fact that the twins were continuously separated for this entire testing process. They might pass each other in the hallways, they said, but they were never ever doing the same testing at the same time, and there was no way that they could have known what the other twin was doing. However, they had done one specific study where while they're drawing blood and just like testing on the twins, they asked them to draw a picture. On two separate occasions, both twins drew the same human on the paper. They drew a person on the paper. And if you really think about that, they could have drawn anything, but they both chose to draw shockingly similar people on their page, or a person on their page. Another really crazy thing about these studies was that while separated once again, they were actually shown a specific image. I believe it was of a mom, dad, and a child, or a woman, a man, and a child, and they were told to make up a story based off of this image. Their story was so created, yet it was the exact same story. They told the exact same story, the same background of the people, the same the same story. Like, despite having been separated and having no knowledge of the other twin taking this exact test as well, which I just found to be unbelievable. The findings of the Minnesota study actually launched even further the debate of nature versus nurture, which I talked about at the beginning of this video. It's essentially the concept of whether or not us as human beings and our personality traits and who we are is based off of nature, meaning our genetics and how we were born and, you know, what we were made up of, or whether it was to do with nurture, which is environmental. So the home environment that you were raised in and whether or not that affects your personality. And so the Jim twins were such a big piece of trying to discover what it was, nature versus nurture, because here were these two twins raised in completely different environments, yet leading identical lives when they had no idea who the other twin was. And one of the twins, like I said earlier, spent his entire 37 years believing that his twin brother had died at birth. So when knowledge of the Jim twins actually came to surface, it spiked a lot of controversy and a lot of debate amongst people, wondering if environment really plays as big of a role as we believed it did in our personality traits and our morals and who we are to the core. Interestingly enough, though, I should add that another study by Science Journal actually found that about 70% of IQ variation amongst twins is genetic, while 30% was environmental. So it really spikes food for thought. Now, there's a lot of people who believe that the story of the Jim twins isn't so much about nature versus nurture, but more about twin telepathy, and that perhaps they were so adjoined with one another, they were on the same vibration, they had such powerful twin telepathy that they were able to subconsciously lead the same lives by twin telepathy, which is interesting because the Jim twins actually said that they had a great deal of feeling empty and incomplete until the day that they met each other, and that when they met each other, even though they were 37 years old and it were as though you were meeting a stranger, it felt like home. It felt like meeting that missing piece. So I think that does play a lot into the theory of twin telepathy and the fact that perhaps they were connected in a way that we couldn't understand unless we were a twin that experienced twin telepathy. It's just so incredibly fascinating, and everything about this case sends chills down my arms. Like when you think about the fact that their first two marriages had the exact same names, that they named their sons the exact same thing, that their childhood dogs they named the exact same thing, that they drove the same car, that they went on the same vacations, that they worked in the same field, like, it just seems like way too much to ever be a coincidence. But whether or not it's a strange phenomenon, whether or not it's a case of twin telepathy, or whether or not it's a case of strong genetics, nonetheless, the case of the Jim twins has to be one of the most wild things I have ever heard. Well, you guys, that is it for the case of the Jim twins. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed researching it. The entire time that I was researching this case, I was like, no way. What the heck? I was just like, I literally was saying that out loud, and I was FaceTiming my mom and like, you won't believe it, they had the same wives. Like, it was so fascinating to me. And it just really set this tone of me wanting to look into more cases across the world that I'd never heard of twin telepathy or twin connection. What do you guys think of nature versus nurture? What do you guys think of twin telepathy? Are you personally a twin? Please, please, please make sure to drop your comments down below, because I will be reading through pretty much all of them. I am so excited to hear what you guys think of this, and also let me know if you've heard of this case before, because I never had, and once I heard about it, I was like, how have I not heard about this? How have I not seen a video on this? It was just so incredibly fascinating. So on that note, I really, really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you want more videos like this, make sure to let me know. And if you're new to my channel or you're just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, please make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. I'm uploading every single day, and I am so inspired to bring you guys some incredible, incredible content. So I don't want you to miss out if you do enjoy my videos. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because it makes my heart super, super happy when you guys do that. So please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.